What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Visual. I am your host, advertising lifestyle photographer Mark Hansen, and this is that podcast where I interview all those people responsible for those pictures and videos you see out in your world every single day. And today, my guest is Chrissy Borgatta Liuzzi, and she is the senior art producer at Innocean USA. And she has worked all over the place before she got to Innocean. She's got some really cool stories. We talk about how her first job in her early 20s, no experience in photo editing at all. She became the photo editor at Entrepreneur magazine and stayed there for 7-8 years. And sounds like it was a very cool job, not day. Many days. She also went from there to Chiat Day, huge ad agency, turned them down at first, and then came back after she got some personal stuff taken care of. And they said, okay, yeah, well, come on, come here to work for us. We talk about what is some of the most important things as a photographer director to do when you are in a portfolio review or interview with an agency and an art producer. We talk about how one of her first big jobs at Chiat Day was for the iMac campaign, and also the Think Different campaign. So she's got some definite Apple experience, and it's really cool. We talk about how she spent 6 weeks at the Soho Grand in New York for a couple of different shoots. How a certain car prep guy on an SUV shoot at the beach let something really awful happen to the SUV that he probably should have known was going to happen. So that's a cool story. Pay attention for that. So check this one out, you guys. Let me know what you think. Like it, thumbs up it, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I look forward to hearing what you all think about this episode. So you've been doing this a while, I know.
Yeah.
But where'd you grow up? So was it, you were an artsy kid kind of a thing, or did you fall into this somehow? Like go into I have people who say, I went to school for biology, I was majoring in biology, and I ended up as a producer or whatever. You're a creative director. So how did you end up here?
I've always had a creative, I like being creative. I've always enjoyed art and photography. And actually, when I was in high school, which I've heard other people say this, it's like, that's kind of where I got inspired in my first photography class in high school. I grew up in Newport Beach, California, and went to Newport Harbor High School, and my photography class was Mr. Vanderlyn. In fact, I actually ran into him recently at like a True Value hardware store. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mr. Vanderlyn. And I tried explaining to him, that he helped kind of inspire me to do what I'm still doing today. And he kind of shrugged. I was kind of disappointed that he wasn't like,
oh, wow, really?
I did. And then he's like, when did you graduate? And I'm like, 86. And he's like, okay, I think he remembered me, but I was like, all right, well, you inspired me. I'm still in this business in a sense.
You're thinking
I still take pictures, and yeah, he's an old guy now, but he looked exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So what do you shoot? Or what do you like to shoot? Like when you were in high school and you were shooting, and even now, do you have a certain thing you'd like to shoot? Like I like shooting, well, obviously I like shooting people, no matter where I am. If I'm on vacation, if I'm going, I like shooting people, but then I also like shooting really cool older buildings as well, landscape kind of, not really landscape. I'm not really into the mountains and the fields and that kind of thing, but I like more architecture kind of stuff. But
I'm for when I do photography, when I take pictures, I don't feel that I'm really strong technically. I don't think I've ever felt that, but I feel like I have a good eye.
Yeah.
And there are things that amuse me, people, situations, signs, and I feel like I can capture that.
Yeah.
I love seeing a dog with his head out the window. I wish I could, if I were driving, I'm kind of like, this or,
Yeah.
and I have a few of those. I love cars, and I don't know if that's because I've been working in the advertising. I've had a car account for my full advertising career.
Wow.
So I love a cool vintage car. And yeah, so for me, it's about a moment and seeing what's about to come. And I can predict that something's gonna come, and then I can snap it, be it with friends and family, or just some amazing person on the sidewalk with the awesome comb over, and or a great wig, or just fashion. I love fashion, and I love what people are wearing, and so I'll stop and take a picture of someone with just a crazy outfit on. I love that. I'm an observer,
Yeah.
definitely, of human nature and people.
Yeah, me too. I like it. And I think that whole being able to predict what's about to happen and be ready for it makes all the difference in the world.
So great.
Yeah, and being able to get that. So you grew up, so you've been on LA, West Coast your whole life, pretty much?
I have. And there's been times where I thought, oh, I need to, be in a big city, or I need to move away and have this experience, but it just never happened. And in this great business that we're in, it does give us an opportunity to travel and spend time in other cities. And so I feel that kind of feeds my needs for being away and traveling.
How's it been not being able to travel? Have you guys started back traveling? Have you started back since the whole COVID lockdown thing?
I've traveled a little bit. The first trip I took it was in 2020. I was a wreck. I was completely emotional wreck. I mean, I was like, I'm not eating that cheese that you just gave me with my mask on. I'm just gonna stay partially dehydrated and just get to where I need to go.
Yeah.
So, it's fine. I haven't done a lot of traveling. I've really only taken one air flight, and that was to see a friend of mine, but I got through it. And I do have a project going up that I'll have to be on a plane, but I think things are, I don't know. COVID right now is in a very kind of sketchy place right now. And so we'll see, but I'm vaccinated. I think everybody should be vaccinated. I don't want to get too political, but I believe in vaccinations. And so I feel pretty good. And with the proper precautions, I've been able to stay well. So hopefully we can continue on that path.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think they did a study showing that planes are one of those, as far as enclosed area, that they're one of the safest places to be because of the filtration system and all that. But I've been on, I don't even know, I want to say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16 flights or something like that since last October. And all on American, and they pack you in. I mean, it is every seat they can possibly fill, they are filling it. Although we had a trip with my family, and I just went to the Bahamas for my youngest daughter's graduation present. We took her to Nassau, and we had booked the seats, and I was booked at the row in front of them, and they were all 3 behind me. There was nobody in my seat coming back. I think it was coming back.
That's so great.
Yeah, so it was just me. And so we moved one of my daughters up into the window seat. And so we had, those 2 rows. That was nice. But that's the first time out of however many flights where there wasn't at least one other person, if not the entire row was just completely packed full.
Yeah. What stresses me out is when, it's like, okay, everyone's got their masks on. It's like, wear it properly. If you don't wear it properly, then what's the point?
Right.
So I think that brings me more anxiety than anything. When I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm OCD in a way that's like, no, that's not how you're supposed to wear it.
Well,
I just keep my mouth shut.
And they put it underneath their chin.
Yeah, it's like
So they
it
wear it
does
and they
nothing
pull it.
for
It's
you.
like, why even have it? Why even
Or
bother?
just have it under their
Yeah,
nose or
yeah,
not
right
even
here.
on, and you're just
Yeah.
like, okay. I do miss international travel. You know, I have a trip that I'm trying to book to Japan, and I thought I was going to be able to do it this year, and now I'm probably going to have to wait until 2022.
Just
But
you.
I do miss international
Yeah.
travel.
Is that just vacation kind of a trip, or is it work?
Yeah, my grandfather, when he's no longer living, but he helped start a company that helped create an inventory process, and he brought this product to Japan, and this was, you know, in like the late 60s, early 70s, and they helped create the skew bar.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
And so there's this little museum in his honor in Kyoto that it's like this vintage grocery store. They kind of replicated this vintage grocery store, and I just want to see it.
yeah.
And I haven't been able to, and I don't know why. I mean, I've been to Japan many times, and I didn't know this place existed until just a few years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And I'm like, I've got to go back. So
Yeah.
that's my plan, to go and visit this museum in honor of my grandfather. Um, and hopefully I can get there in 2022.
Yeah, that's very
I'm not
cool.
even going to say hopefully. I will get there
You'll
in
make it there.
2022.
Yes. How long is that flight?
Oh gosh.
What's the fastest you've ever made it to Japan?
I, I want to say 12 hours. It's a long flight. It
Yeah.
depends on if you can get nonstop from wherever, you
Right.
know. Yeah, it's a long flight, and I would, maybe I've suppressed it. I took my son when I was married, and my son was little. We went there several times, and so I always had a baby to take care of.
Oh,
That I was
wow.
kind of like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, but
That's brave.
well, you know, I always traveled with my son when he was little. He's 19 now. And for the most part, I always feel like when you're adaptable, you know, when you take a child with you, they become adaptable
Right.
to the situations. And he was always really easy to travel with. Um, every now and then we'd be the family you didn't want to sit next to. I will totally admit that. But for the most part, he was pretty easy to travel with, and we always took him everywhere.
Oh, thank God for
And now
that.
he doesn't want to go.
Of
He
course.
doesn't like doing that anymore. So I don't know if we spoiled him in the sense that now he's like, no, I'm not going to go on that long flight.
Right.
Let's go someplace else in United States.
Yeah, let's go someplace a little shorter flight. Would be good.
Right, right.
Is there something in Japan that keeps bringing you back there?
Well, when I was married, I've always had a love for Japanese and Japanese culture. And when I was married, my ex-husband has a friend that lives there, and so we always had a place to stay. If anybody says, "Hey, come visit me, you can stay with us," you better watch out, because I'm probably gonna come. I'm probably gonna come over.
Well, that's
Um,
good.
yeah, yeah. So we went there several times, and I just love the people. I love the mix of old and new, and it's just it's just a fascinating place, and clean and safe. And I have to say, the one thing we did when I one of our trips that we took, and I was like, all right, we'll go. We've got a child. We should go to Tokyo Disney. What an experience. I have to say, it was such a cultural experience. We were the only non-Asian people there, I think. And it was so fascinating to see and to hear all the sounds and the language, and everybody had like something on their head. They were all wearing the hats. And then there's the Harajuku girls. And my son was like this blonde little baby. And everyone's like, oh my God. They're all taking their pictures with us and their friends. And it was such a fun thing to experience. And like, their Disneyland is set up kind of in a big circle. And so when the parades happen, everyone kind of congregates into the middle of the park, which is this giant circle, and everybody knows all the words to all the
Oh,
songs
wow.
and the dances. And it was just, that was a really incredible experience. If anyone ever has the opportunity to go to Disneyland in Tokyo, it's not, it would not disappoint. It was really fun,
That sounds
surprisingly.
very cool. Yeah, I would totally be up for that. I don't know
Yeah.
about the flight because I'm sure it's even longer from East Coast to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love traveling. It's fun. It's in my blood.
I don't, yeah, I love to travel, but I think the longest flight I've had has been like a 10-hour flight or something like that.
Yeah, I think the longest flight I ever took was I went to Africa with um I went to Africa with my aunt and my grandmother, and that was a lot because we were traveling over 24 hours.
Yeah,
And
wow.
I mean, it was a great trip. And at one point, I think at the 12-hour mark, you're just like, can I have like some alcohol or something? Because I'm gonna just, I need something. And I'm like
Right.
eating oranges and trying to make a drink. It's just, you get in this weird space when you get past this time and you're like, we've been in the air for so long and you're trying to sleep and I can't sleep on planes. So
The worst for me, I can fall asleep on a plane before it takes off if
I wish.
I don't have to sleep on the plane. So if
Yeah.
I'm going like East Coast to West Coast, I'll fall asleep almost before we get off the tarmac. If I am taking the red eye from LA back East Coast, I will stay awake the entire time. I will try and sleep, but it's like when I was going to Budapest. That was a 10-hour flight. I knew I needed to sleep. I maybe in 10 hours, I got a total of hour and a half sleep, maybe. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just on the
I'm
way
really
back, I
bad with
slept the
that.
whole entire time.
You're coming home.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew I didn't have to go to sleep, but I was just fall out.
uh
Just went for it. So did you go to school for art, design, photography, that kind of thing? Or did you just kind of roll straight
well,
into
when I was so when I was in high school and I'm trying to figure out what do I want to do, honestly, and I don't want to put down my family, but I had no guidance like when
yeah,
I
me
was
too.
growing up. It was just like go to school. Nobody like said you have to do this or this is what you have to do next. You have to think about SATs or this and that. I kind of figured it out on my own. And
Yeah.
I went to junior college for a while. I went to OCC, and then I went into this like trade school called Platt College. And I did a little graphic design. I finished and completed the courses, but I really wasn't sure. And then this opportunity came up at a magazine called Entrepreneur Magazine,
Yeah.
which is in Irvine, California. And that I have to say was my college education. They needed a photo editor. I was 20, just 20 years old, 21. And for some, who knows why, I got the job. I had never done this before. I didn't think I could get involved and do something that I really loved,
Right.
and my passion for photography. I was I was working at a property management place for a while and this just opportunity came. And
Have they been around a
that's
while at that point, or is it
the
just were they
magazine
new?
had been,
Yeah.
yeah, and the magazine's still
Right.
around.
Yeah.
Um,
So they were just looking for just a photo editor and didn't
they
matter.
needed a photo editor. They needed someone to buy all the stock photos and manage the photography budgets and plan the editorial shoots. And it was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is great. And I did photography for them as well. Little product shots and things like that. And that's how I started. I worked there for 9 years. I met agents, I met photographers, I learned how to manage the budgets, secured stock photography. And at that time, the stock photography, like from Getty and
Right.
Corvus and all these other things, it was all just books, magazines that they would send you. And
Right.
so I just have this entire bookshelf of stock photography, and then I'd order the images and they would actually send you slides. I'm totally dating myself here, but it was
I'm
like
with you. Yeah.
slide photography that you would have to manage just hundreds of images. And then after you made your selection, you'd have to return them.
Oh, wow.
It was so much work, but that was part of it. And I like I said, that was my college education. And about in my 8th year of that, somebody had said, you should work as an art. At the time, we were called art buyers.
Right.
Now we're producers. But you should look into being an art buyer. And I got an interview with Chiat Day. And at the time, I didn't know anything about advertising, and not realizing Chiat Day
Right.
and where they were. I mean, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go in for an interview. I went in for an interview. I'm like, this is
You
cool.
think
It
that
was
was
in
probably
Venice.
better that you didn't really know Chiat Day was Chiat Day?
Yeah, probably. And so I went in for the interview and I got the job. And I actually was like, I turned it down at first because I don't know if something inside of me, I had all this other stuff I had to need. I had all this family business that I had to do because I was in Newport Beach, and talk about thinking about a commute to Venice every day. And because they were in the old binocular building. I was in that building, but then we moved over to the one in Playa del Rey, or Playa Vista. So anyway, I ended up calling Amy back. Amy Mormon was my boss at the time. And I said, I've completed all of my family obligations and my commitments. I'm free if you're still interested. And I got the job.
Wow.
And then that just started this whole career in advertising at TBWA Chiat Day. It was such a great time, and it was such a great experience. And I'd worked with such a great group of women. And that was the first time I'd ever worked with a team of women. And it was so much fun because at the magazine, I worked with most of the art directors were men. I worked with a couple women, but it was fun. It was such a great experience. And I was there for close to 4 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So what was the biggest difference between going from a magazine as a photo director to going over to Chiat Day as a art producer, art buyer, whatever at the time?
As far as the process of researching photographers and getting to know agents and all of that, it was a really great place. It was a good transition. From being a photo editor to an art buyer was a nice marriage in a sense. It just kind of flowed, and it was different. Obviously, the
Right.
budgets were different, the contracts were different, but it was a good transition. I felt prepared from everything that I had learned from the magazine to take this next step. And it was a challenge.
Yeah, I bet.
It was a challenge. And, advertising is, I think for everybody going into business, it's a matter of like, once you're there, to kind of stand back and kind of assess everything, like and try to understand the org chart of who you need to, drop what you're doing and say, yes, I'll do this.
Right.
Or to say, I'll be with you in a moment and let me get this. So all of that, and understanding the clients and the client relationships and the organization of all the people involved, your brand team. And that was the hard part. It's like, what is everybody's role? Because
Right.
where
Sure.
I was working with maybe 3 people, I'm now working with 20 people,
Right.
on a campaign and a project. So that was that was a challenge, but here I am all these years later.
It obviously worked out for you.
Yes, it
I
did.
see
It did.
that.
It's been great.
Do you, obviously there's a huge difference in how you find photographers now, I'm assuming.
Hmm.
Was there, was that a little, did that change just happen gradually for you? Do you prefer, do you wish it was back to where you had books sent in and the agents were bringing in the books, or do you like, and how do you find them now? Because I'm assuming back then it was, they showed up, here's a book, you took the meetings and all that, where now getting a meeting with the art producer is very difficult. Well,
Is
especially
it?
right now. But yeah, there are a few that will be like, yeah, that's my job, I'll meet you and immediately. And then there, but I'm going to say 75%, it takes forever for you to finally get in and for them to actually be willing to meet you in person. But I just wonder, how do you
Well,
do
yeah. I
that?
mean, back in the day, and bring it back to Chiat Day, we would have certain days that we would allow to have portfolios come in. We would do a lot of, all right, let's let a bunch of portfolios in, and we would have a room just stacked with
Oh, that's
portfolios,
right.
and we would go in and review them.
I remember that
um
now. It used to be like some people were like, drop it off on Wednesday, you can pick it up on Friday or the next Wednesday or whatever it was.
right, unless we were
Oh,
calling books in for a
right.
particular project. um and then, I mean, even back then up until COVID, I loved holding portfolio shows. And so we would have our cafe closed off, and we would just have rows and rows of portfolios, because I still like seeing a book.
Right.
I still like turning the page. But now, I mean, in even we would do the portfolio show, and to have it not just for the creatives, but to just let everybody in, the agency, to come and be inspired. I always liked having like just inspirational shows. It didn't have to be just about a particular client.
Right.
It didn't have to be focused on automotive, but let's have the fashion photographers in. Let's have the interior or food photographers in. Let's have the conceptual shows, because you never know when you need to refer someone,
Right.
or when that particular client is all of a sudden a new client. So I like seeing everything. I always have. Lately, as far as research, I do a lot of my own research. I like research. I love what social media has done
Mhm.
for the industry. I mean, I love following people on Instagram, and I love keeping tabs on what's new. And I like it when a photographer, if they have two different IG pages, one just for their photography, I just like referring to that. It's a great resource for me. I
Right.
do participate in a lot of, like Palm Springs Photo Festival, Photo Works. I meet a lot of new photographers that way. I'm really open to being to participating in those events, even though if they're online, if
Right.
now they're still online, but that's fine. It's great way to have a conversation and meet people. And I like to meet new up and coming photographers as well. If there's any kind of guidance I can give them, I think that's where I'm kind of where the next step of my career is kind of evolving to, is that I like and enjoy talking to people just entering this
Right.
crazy world of advertising, and in any capacity, if it's someone within the agency, or somebody in an internship program, or out there trying to get started. I'm totally open to having a conversation and sharing whatever I can with them.
How do you handle, first of all, I'm going to ask you this, I'll come back to that. Are you seeing, when you do the portfolio reviews, do you see actual books, or are you seeing mostly iPads or laptops or whatever at this point?
Well, right now everything's online.
Or yeah.
I haven't received anything. I haven't looked at a physical portfolio since right before COVID.
Yeah.
Um,
Because the
and
last
I
time I was in
feel,
New York having meetings was January of 2020, right before everything shut down. I think it was January. And I had lunch with a friend of mine who's an art producer. and I had my book with me and I had my iPad, and she looked at me and she's like, "You still have a book?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." She
Well,
goes,
how old was the art producer that you're
"She's 40 something."
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that books are great. Like, I really look forward to the time where um, we can host a portfolio show again,
Yeah.
and bring books in if they have them. I mean, everybody's different. Every photographer is different. I feel
Mhm.
like, it's nice to see printed work. But as a art producer, I'm totally open to however they want to present their work to me. If
Okay.
if somebody still has a book, sure, I'll look at the book.
Yeah.
I don't have the budget anymore to return the book if they
Right.
want to drop off a book. It's like, no, I need a job number, and I don't have this FedEx budget
Yeah.
anymore, to return the book. So if I can take a meeting, I will. Um, but for the most part, like I said, since it's all online right now, I look at it online, and I kind of not just look at their website. Sometimes an agent will have their book exclusively on the agent website, and you're like, I
Yeah.
know there's more. I know you're
Right.
not showing me everything. So then I'll try to find then I'll Google the artist and look at their own website and
Yeah.
see what those differences are versus or try to find them on social media. I just kind of dig around. I'm nosy that way.
Well, that's good. I mean,
Yeah.
my rep Maria and I have been talking about when we can actually go have in-person meetings again, or trying to get those to do a book that's kind of an overview, almost like the landing page on the website kind of deal, where
Hmm.
it's an overview, and then have the iPad set up for each individual agency, depending on what they shoot. So if we go and shoot something that's more lifestyle, I'll have that set up for that agency. And then if it's something more reportage kind of thing, I'll have that set up, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think if you were to present someone with both, they'd be probably kind of like, "Oh, wow." And
Yeah.
honestly, I do my homework. I look at your work, and it's more for me when I meet with a photographer, I want to talk to the photographer. I want to gauge their personality and see if they have a sense of humor and talk to them, because ultimately you are working, like, who we choose to bring into the agency is also a representation of your work, and how are you going to present yourself to um, the agency. How are you going to represent yourself to our clients, and
Mhm.
kind of your personality? Is that going to be a good fit? I mean, obviously, if you're just this brilliant photographer and the personality is not there, hopefully I
Oh,
can
yeah.
bring something out. But it's part of it.
Right.
So by the time I meet with you, I'm trying to see the person behind the images.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was talking to Michael Kaminsky from Juice Pharma, and he said his best portfolio or best meetings, portfolio reviews, or whatever, he said, are the ones where I don't even open the book.
Hmm.
He said those are usually the best ones, because we get to know each other, and I get to know if I can stand to work with this person for multiple days at a time if I need to,
Yep.
that kind of stuff. And I agree. I think that's a big part of it, because I've had art directors where I never met them ahead of time.
Yeah.
The company that they worked for threw me in on the shoot and threw them in with me. And then we get there, and the one I'm thinking about was very difficult to work with, to the point where everybody on the crew was complaining
Yeah.
about it.
I think
So
we've all had those
yeah,
experiences,
so those are
but
a little bit difficult. So I think it is good to actually meet the person ahead of time.
it is. And is this someone that we can work with?
Mhm.
Now, there's also been times where I've met with just really charming photographers, and they've oversold themselves in a sense, and then you're on set and you're like, did we make the right decision here? And the images are good because you have your art director and all of that,
Right.
but you try to gauge people
Yeah.
And I think that those relationships are really important. And obviously the work is really important. And are you going to be able to achieve everything we need to accomplish, and get our shot list done in time, and have it and have your work, does your work represent what you've shown, type of thing. I
Right.
mean, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I want to see the work. I want to see your personality. Let's try to achieve that when we're on set together.
Right. Yeah. So you don't want to see, you're hoping that what you see in the book, if you like their personality, what you see in their portfolio is actually going to what you see when you start shooting and shows up on set, as opposed to everything they've got in their book has been completely manipulated to the point where,
and
some photographers are like that. I think they do an amazing job, but most of those guys, you know it ahead of time. Where I do know some photographers that if you see the raw and see the final, you just look at the two and just go, those aren't even in the same place. Which that's a little disconcerting, I think.
But also that meeting is important because it also gives you the opportunity to ask questions like, who's your producer? Who do you work with for retouching? What's your process? What kind of equipment do you use? Because these are the things that I'm going to need as part of an estimate when I ask you to bid a package with me. It gives me the opportunity to kind of explain our needs.
Yeah. How do you deal with when you're doing a portfolio review, say at Palm Springs or that kind of a thing? If you have a photographer come in, and I don't know, do you have like directors, motion directors, and that stuff, as well as it's strictly photographers?
Well, for the type of work that I'm creating, it's really a combination. I produce a lot of still photography that has a video component with it. So I am looking for the photographer / director.
Okay.
And of course, when I do look at any kind of work for running footage or just a director's work, because of the type of producer I am, I would rather see someone that can do both. I would refer that director to a content producer within the agency that I work at now, because we're producing different groups of work, but my work is combined. It's integrated.
Okay.
So I do look for photographers that also have a reel.
Right. All right. How do you handle, say at one of these portfolio reviews, somebody comes up and they're not very good? How do you break that down to them? Are you very polite and just go, thank you, good luck, and send them on their way? How does that work?
It depends on the person, really. It depends on how open the photographer is to having a real conversation. I mean, I meet photographers that are more, I don't want to say amateur, or they're more, it's more of a hobby to them, and that they get involved into these, somehow they get into these shows. And I don't know all the time how the, these shows, how much vetting they do.
Right.
But there's always one that slips in and that you're just kind of like, you requested a meeting with me, my history, and I'm seeing some of your fine art nude work, or things like that, or they're just not there. If it's someone that's new and that's junior, and they want to talk to me they ask me questions and they're really engaged about how to get in, then I'll take the conversation into that direction.
Right.
And start giving them guidance as to, maybe you should, call this person, call that person. Let me give you some links. Or I'll give them suggestions on, keeping their website current.
Right.
I'm totally open to giving them some real concrete advice if they're open to it. And I'll just kind of gauge that, and to see how excited they are about what it is that they're doing, because there are younger photographers out there that have really great questions, and they know that that's why they're taking this meeting.
Yeah, that's
Other
good.
people just want to show me
Right.
their work that's not, and and there's times where I'm just polite and say, oh, that's great, and move on.
Right. So what was, when you moved to the ad agency, when you moved to Shot Day, what was the first big shoot you were in charge of that you did the art buying for? Do you remember that?
Yeah, let me go back real quick. I was working on, gosh, the first one that comes up to mind was the Think Different campaign.
Oh yeah.
I know that wasn't the first one. I know we had some licensing with the Think Different campaign. Um, and there was a Levi's licensing project with Marlon Brando in the Wild One movie,
Oh
and
wow.
they did this big Levi's campaign, and I was working closely with my boss at the time, Amy Mormon. And then I worked on I'm gonna say the first iMac campaign was a really big one. That was the one where I was kind of like, you know, I was a nervous. It was like, you could say that this was my first day at school. It was like I was really nervous on that project, but we produced a campaign for iMac, and the confidentiality of everything that we worked on with
Oh, I bet.
Apple and Steve Jobs, and Lee Clow was
Were they
right
on
down the
set?
hall, not on set,
Right.
but he was right
Yeah,
down the
you're
hall at the
right. Yeah.
agency. And I was running on fear most of it, just because I was so new and nervous. Like, am I doing this right? And there was all these confidentiality rules and getting
Right.
the product to set. But it was a great experience, and it was a big shoot, and we did this big folder, this big brochure folder with talent and the blue and white, iMac. And I worked on Apple for a good chunk of time, and it was really exciting.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, wow. Okay, so the first iMac. That's impressive. Yeah,
I
I'd have been
know,
nervous as
right?
hell too. I'd have been like, oh my God. Yeah.
Working with all the Apple products, and having them delivered from Cupertino, and
Yeah.
sending someone out there to go pick them up, and don't stop, just get the product to
Right.
us. If you have to go to the bathroom,
Yeah, just don't do it. Yeah.
just go in and go out. Bring us the
Put on your
product.
diaper and get going.
Yeah.
What- Was
It
it
was
that
very
astronaut?
exciting.
Yeah, I bet.
Very, very exciting. And to be a part of that history
Yeah.
is so exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you remember your first auto shoot? Your first car shoot?
I think that was with Nissan. I
Yeah.
worked on Nissan and Infinity there, and that was again, it was a whole new thing. I'd always worked with people, pretty
Right.
much people and products, when I worked at the magazine. So it was something that evolved. It was all very gradual. And I don't remember my first car shoot, but I remember, we were shooting on film and medium format transparencies, and
Yeah.
looking at all of them, and it was all about the horizon line and working with natural light, and in those back, in the 90s, when we were doing this, it was like we just did a couple shots a day.
Right. Yeah.
And now we're shooting 6 or 7 shots a day, and it's amazing the evolution of all of that, and that from just actual film to when digital was coming out, and I'm like, oh, I'm just not sold on this for so long. and
Oh yeah.
and to see the evolution of the of digital photography, and where we're at today is really quite incredible.
I think I was shooting film for all my clients up
Would you
until
go for a E6 run at lunchtime and get the hour
I
processing
would.
for extra $20?
The thing the thing I do like about digital, the thing I don't like is that everybody wants it now. I mean, some are like,
Right.
just give me the hard drive and we're taking it. And I'm like, all right. The thing I do like about digital is I can go to dinner with everybody now. Where with film, I'd be like, you guys have fun. And I would haul ass to the lab wherever it was. If we were in Miami or California or, here locally, I would just immediately go to the lab, drop it off, tell them to give me that hour processing or whatever it was. I want it back as fast as possible so I could look at it and see. Because I had the Polaroid,
Oh my
but that just
God.
wasn't
It
enough.
makes me feel good that we can have this conversation because many times I'm like, I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Those days were cool though. Although
It
like I said,
was.
it's nice to be able to go to dinner now with everybody and not, because I remember I had my first shoot for it was a magazine out of New York with Meredith, and we were in Miami. It was my first big shoot kind of a thing, and I was shooting medium format chrome, and I didn't go to dinner at one night. I just went and dropped the film off and went and got a slice of pizza or something and just waited in my hotel room because it was like 2 blocks up the street from where the lab was. And I just sat there and waited and waited. And then I went running back down there and got it and then sat there the rest of
And
the
then
night.
you have to edit.
Yeah, I was looking through film. Like, nope, not that one.
I
Not
don't have my light box with me. Let me use
yes.
my window here.
Exactly. Yeah. Or when it got to the night, I'm holding it up so I can see it on the lamp in the room. And like, yeah, we're cutting that out. I'm cutting that. Yeah.
With your
So,
big loop.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of cool, but yeah, digital has definitely changed things for, like you said, it used to be a few shots a day to now. I mean, if I'm shooting, if I have a shoot where I have 6, 7 shots in a day, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty good,
all.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because most of them are like, oh, we got 15, 20 shots today. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Which some of those are
Awesome.
okay. I had one, I think it was like we had 30 something shots to do in a day. And that was just cranking it out. I mean, it was, it was low budget, got to get it done. We have one day to shoot all this, bang it out.
Been
But
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
the good part about that is, I guess, we do enough pre-planning that
Yes.
we were pretty sure we knew how this was going to go, had the schedule.
You have to have a good shot list. You've got to have a plan. It's got to be prepared. Yeah. And then it is doable.
Yeah. So when you started doing the auto stuff, was there anything about shooting cars and automobiles that surprised you? That was just like, wow, didn't know this is how they did that, or didn't know I was going to need this kind of a thing?
I don't think the shoot process uh was I mean, I understand a set. I always understood the what it was like to be on set. I just didn't know. I learned so much about cars.
Yeah,
It's
I didn't know
more
if cars
about
were like shooting food, if they have to do
the
certain things to the cars to make it so it reflects or doesn't reflect, or that kind of.
yeah, I mean, when I first started, it was pretty natural. They would use, reflection boards
Right.
and things like that. But I've just learned so much about cars. Like
Not bad.
I look at, what was a B pillar or C, or just the buttons and the navigations and you know, what kind of wheels they were. Are they alloy? Are they regular? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's like all these things about the car. And I look at a car completely differently now.
I
I'm
bet.
always looking at the body line and I appreciate the headlight detail or like if what they've done to it. So as far as the design of a car,
Yeah.
I'm really a lot more knowledgeable than I
Oh,
ever
I
expected to be. But as far as like shooting cars, and everything that takes place, it was all a learning process
bet. Yeah.
for me. And so I don't think anything was kind of shocking to me or like, oh wow, I didn't know that.
Right.
Just probably the money part of it as well, and all of the differences between, coming from an editorial background, and learning what a large set actually requires and all the other lighting equipment and all the other people,
Right.
involved. So it's just on a larger scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Have you been any really great locations to shoot cars or just shoots?
One of my favorite shoots, I think I went on in the past. I had to stay. I stayed in New York for 6 weeks. I stayed at the Soho Grand for 6 weeks,
Really?
and back then it was like,
Okay.
wow. So that was really fun. It was a long. I mean, the shoot wasn't 6 weeks. I had actually, they're like, just stay there because we've got this other shoot that we're working. I did it. It was just this particular shoot was for Mercury, and we shot all these beautiful iconic places in New York, and then I stayed on for a shoot for Sony, their laptop Vio. So I just
Oh,
stayed
yeah.
there, and it was just great because like I said earlier, I haven't really lived any
Right.
other major city. So I feel like by staying in New York for 6 weeks, I got a taste of it,
Yeah.
and that was a great experience. And to be able to work and shoot the Guggenheim and just kind of
That's
these
cool.
iconic places in the Brooklyn Bridge, and that was a great experience. It was a real learning experience for me too, just being away from home for that long. And
I bet.
but that was a great shoot to be able to see how you can. I mean, that's not an easy thing to block off a street in
Oh,
New York
yeah.
City, or oh, you get the curb and you get half the and like a lane.
Yeah.
So how are we going to logistically make this shoot work? And so all of those details, like remember we had to prop the car up on like a tow bed,
Yeah.
and then we had to like dress the tow bed with like some asphalt, fake
Oh,
asphalt,
yeah.
to give it the illusion that it was on the street, just so that we could be off the street or be away
Right.
from it. It was also technically interesting the way that we
Oh,
approached
wow.
that. So that was a really fun shoot. I always love shooting, and I've shot all over Canada, Whistler, and
Yeah.
went to Whistler and Vancouver, and kind of off the in between those two spaces, and I always love that. So traveling is, to see the
Yeah.
country, and to go to these places. That was probably my most exciting shoot, one of them. I've had lots of exciting shoots, but I haven't been to, you know, everyone's like, let's go to Spain. I'm like, I'd love to go to
Right.
Spain and shoot a campaign. I haven't been able to do that yet.
Sometimes it's cheaper. At least coming up lately, seems
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
cheaper to shoot over there because I was over there for a movie and then I was talking to somebody recently who was over there. Well, not they weren't recently, but I was talking to somebody recently and they had been over in Spain to shoot some stuff that it was cheaper to shoot over there than it was to shoot it over here by like 15, 30 grand or something like that. Just
Yeah, I
because I
haven't
guess of
I
the
haven't been
union
able to
thing.
do that.
Yeah. Maybe it'll pop up soon. Maybe we'll get
Yeah. I made a joke earlier. It's like I've been in a lot of places in California, the Mojave Desert and
yeah.
San Bernardino, and wherever we can
Cool
find it.
places though, especially
Yeah,
for people who've never been out there.
we find the good spots
Yeah, it's like my
here
kids. I wanted to
locally.
take them on a trip across country and to see some stuff. A friend of mine was like, "There's nothing between the East Coast and Texas really to see from where you guys are." He said, "Fly to Texas and drive from there." They were just at first they're like, "Okay," and then they went, "Nah, I don't want to do that." It was because they just want to go out the country. They don't. I
Hmm.
was like, it could be very cool to stay in the country sometimes and see
Oh
some
yeah, you see
stuff.
great things
Yeah.
on the road.
Right.
I love a road trip, and um, I I recently, because of COVID, I went hiking in Utah with a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm just going to drive. I don't mind driving. And you see lots of wonderful things
Yeah,
on
I
the
want to
road.
do it. That's on my bucket list is to drive cross country. My brother's done it
Yeah.
twice, but he literally did it moving in a U-Haul, so he was not trying to see a bunch of stuff.
I can't go see that
No.
giant frying pan
Yeah,
wherever it
exactly.
is.
Yeah, he was trying
In
to
my
get out to LA
U-Haul.
as fast as he could and then get away from LA as fast as he could both
Yeah.
times when he did it. So, okay, I saw on your website it says you're a curator.
I
Tell me a
haven't
little bit
done that
about
in a
that.
while. I wish. the agency that I'm currently working at, when I first started there, I've been at the agency, including my freelance year. I've actually been there 10 years full time, but
Oh, wow.
we had this space that it was a very small space and it had so much potential. And so I was curating that space for a while, and it was a great project. And I would love to do that again. I would find young artists that would want to, show their work. There was a young photographer that went to school with my son, and I curated his first show for him. And that was really great. He was 14 at the time,
Wow.
and I decorated this internal space that we had, and I hope he's still shooting. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he had such talent and such an eye for being so young, and I loved that little space that we had. And I haven't done it in maybe 6 years.
Oh,
I
wow.
haven't. I love that work, and so and I took pride in curating that space, so I can still feel like I don't want to take it down,
Right.
Yeah,
I can see that.
and if I ever had the opportunity to curate again, I want to show that I can do wonders with little space. So
Do you think you guys will ever go back in person, full, like the whole thing like it was in 2019? Yeah.
yeah, our office is working through that right now. As far as right now we're all still working from home.
Right.
We go in when as needed if there's certain meetings, but I've been able to manage all of my business at home. I think
Sure.
eventually, of course, we all want to go back,
Yeah.
and have things kind of go back to normal. I don't know. I mean, this whole couple of years has been a great experience to show that people can really
Mhm.
work. I mean, I'm a producer. I can work from anywhere. I've
Right.
worked on
Yeah.
street corners. I've worked on not on street corners, but I've literally set up my office on a street corner
Right.
on the tarmac of wherever I'm at, and I can do my job from anywhere. It's nice. I miss the in person, the hallway meetings and walking from one building to the other building, and I miss my coworkers and miss that interaction,
Yeah.
and just a quick cup of coffee in the cafe to meet up with people. So I do miss all of that interaction and the culture that our agency has built. And we're all just doing it remotely now.
Mhm.
So I'm sure eventually it'll get back to that. But right now, everybody's just kind of doing their part to stay healthy and um, and try to continue to get through this.
Yeah. Well, that's probably smart. Then you'll be able to get back faster, hopefully. If everybody just stays
Hmm.
healthy and does their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're hitting about an hour. So I'm gonna ask you the final question. And what is the coolest or strangest, most interesting thing that's ever happened to you since you started doing this whole job? It doesn't have to be all three. It can just be one where you just like, can't believe this happened, or this was just a weird thing that just happened to me on set, or it's like I think we were talking earlier where somebody was in South America and they had their the extra gas stolen out of their gas tanks and had no idea, and they were stranded out in the middle of nowhere, kind of a thing.
um, I do. One story does come to mind. I've had a lot of cool things, a lot of wonderful experiences. I always seem to come back with some weird, funny, anecdote about a crazy thing that happened on set, because that's just part of being on
Oh
set.
yeah.
When you're
Yep.
working in a city and someone comes in and tries to sit in a car. But I remember being in Canada for quite some time. We were working on it was an SUV that we worked on, and our car prep driver at the time was taking the car on a beach, and we were doing like kind of those running
Yeah.
beach scenes, and the car prep, and this is a car prep tech. So you would think that they would know not to do this. And he stopped the car like right at the shoreline. And I just read a story about this recently, just a couple days ago. And I'm like, I know what happened then. And then as the waves hit, the car is like starts to sink. And the car starts getting kind of swept out into the shore. And I remember we were all sitting on the beach, like, what is he doing? What's going on? And we all run to the car like we have the manpower to pull the SUV out of the water. And I just remember all the locals coming out. They're all kind of watching us like, oh yeah, we want to buy that car. And for some, I don't know how we did it, but somehow we got a tow truck out there in time to save the car and pull the car from the sand and get it onto the beach and get it. And we're all just trying to wrap up because all of these locals in somewhere, and I can't even remember what beach we were at. So we're just like, yeah, we want to buy that car. And I've heard that from some different, there's lots of
so that's happened multiple times then, from what you heard.
not with me,
but yeah, you've heard it's not.
It'll never happen with
not
me again,
thing,
but because I would be like, what are you doing? Get the car. You can't stop the car.
Well, see, it was a learning situation.
It really was. But we saved the car and we got the hell out of there so that the locals weren't making fun of us anymore. But you're right, it is a learning experience. And all the years that I have been doing this, and whatever does go wrong, I'm still learning. I'm still learning about production. I'm still learning about what to do in tough situations and trying to manage it the best I can. But there's always room to learn, and there's always room for people to teach.
Yeah.
And you need to be open to learning what everybody has to give, what everybody has to offer.
I think that's what makes this job interesting, is it's not always, even if you've done the same thing 30, 40 times, every single time, something's going to be different. And it's maybe something that you're prepared for and can handle. And it may be something you just like, oh crap. And you got to figure it out how to handle it right at that second.
And I'm always telling, when I do have the opportunity to speak to someone that's just starting out, I think one of the most important things about being in this business is to be adaptable, because everything is advancing so quickly. And there's right around the corner, there's going to be something that we don't even know about yet. And it's a matter of really paying attention and being open and adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll just continue on, and our jobs will evolve. And that's the exciting thing about our career, because before you know it, you'll be doing it as long as we've been doing it. And being open to change is really important.
Oh, absolutely. Because I have friends who are not as open to change, and it hurts them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like the way things are moving at this point, forward, as far as how to promote yourself or what people are looking for in photography. And you're not going to change it. It's like I was listening to a book the other day, and there was this guy in the story. This guy owns a coffee shop in New York, and Starbucks moved in, and all these other coffee places started complaining about Starbucks and trying to figure out how to get rid of Starbucks or what to do. This guy was like, I saw it coming. I bought stock in Starbucks. I'm like, you got to
come to my coffee shop.
Yeah, come to my coffee shop. I'm not going anywhere, but I see that they're not either. So I'm going to own a piece of that place so I can end mine as well.
That's
and
great.
I think you got to kind of do that. I always said that half my job is problem solving.
It is.
Half of it's shooting, and another half is figuring out how to solve whatever problem pops up on set, and then how to adjust later to, even if it's going from film to digital, how to roll through that and adjust to it. So
yeah,
but it's fun.
I agree.
It's what makes it fun.
I know, I love what I do, and I feel very lucky to have had all the experiences that I've had.
Well, Chrissy, thank you so much for doing this. This was very cool. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Yeah, it was
Thank you. I'm flattered and honored that you wanted to talk to me. So thank you. It's been great.